Thank you, Adrienne. Consistently ranked in the top 100 universities worldwide, Penn State is located in an area ranked as the third safest metropolitan area in the U.S., known as Happy Valley. Their website touts that the Penn State culture is one first and foremost of academic excellence, claiming they are a global academic powerhouse in a wide range of scientific, intellectual, creative, and technological fields. And before the Sandusky scandal, Penn State's reputation of excellence was only rivaled by the reputation of their football team, the Nittany Lions. And the Nittany Lions were synonymous with their longtime head coach, Joe Paterno. Ralph Russo of USA Today writes in his article, Paterno's grand experiment produced perfection. Paterno's football program stood out as an example of a clean program. Its motto, success with honor. His grand experiment aimed to prove that a school could have a quality academics and quality athletics department without sacrificing one for another. Paterno's Penn State tenure spans 61 years. His stellar record includes 409 wins, 2 national championships, 5 undefeated seasons. But Paterno, affectionately nicknamed Joe Pa, wasn't only Penn State's football coach. He was dedicated to Penn State and its students, and they to him. When owner of the New England Patriots offered Paterno a $1.4 million deal to be head coach and part owner of the Patriots, Paterno chose instead to remain at Penn State, saying he could influence not only the football players, but the entire student body with staying at Penn State. And herein begins the problem. Forbes contributor John Baldoni writes in his article, What Leaders Can Learn from What Penn State Did Wrong. The seeds of this scandal were sown decades ago when Paterno was allowed to create an empire that made him beyond reproach. He had become the emperor of Penn State. Nothing important at Penn State, it has been said by many insiders, was done without Paterno's approval. True or not, the fact remains that the Penn State football organization was what Janice referred to as a deeply cohesive in-group, and the group's homogeneous dialectic was the beginning of their downfall. Membership in Paterno's inner circle was difficult to obtain, highly coveted, and open to only a few. In his article, Penn State Cover-Up, Groupthink in Action, Time Magazine's Lawrence Cohen writes, It's hard to imagine a more inside group than University President Grant Spanier, Senior Vice President Graham Schultz, Athletic Director Tim Curley, and revered football coach Joe Paterno. And as Paterno's assistant coach from 1969 to 1999, Jerry Sandusky was on the inside too. Sandusky's adopted son Matt once stated, if people thought of Joe Paterno as God, they thought of Jerry as Jesus. They could do whatever they wanted. They could do no wrong. One nonconformist who seemed to buck the system was a thorn in Paterno's side her entire time at Penn State. Vicki Trapponi was vice president of student affairs from 2003 to 2007. She clashed often with Paterno over who should discipline football players. Trapponi says, Paterno urged her to, quote, leave discipline of my football players to me. The conflict with such an iconic figure made her very unpopular around campus. Later, Trapponi was harassed at home and online and ostracized in the community. She was later told by Spanier that she was too aggressive, too confrontational, and that she wasn't fitting in with the Penn State way. Trapponi resigned. In addition to a group being highly cohesive, Janice lists certain characteristics of groupthink, such as the group sets itself above the law, it avoids transparency, and it protects itself at all costs. Not only were these characteristics already apparent in regards to the discipline of players, they describe the manner in which the events surrounding Sandusky's actions were handled to a T. The night that Mike McQueary witnessed Jerry Sandusky raping a young boy in the shower at Penn State, McQueary was a young graduate assistant coach, newly accepted into the close ranks of Paterno's elite inner circle. Although he was shocked and deeply disturbed by what he saw, McQueary decided to go to Paterno instead of police. Court records show that Paterno told McQueary he did the right thing coming to him and stated, well, I'm sorry you had to see that. It's terrible. I need to think and tell some people what you saw, and then I'll let you know what we do next. As it turns out, Paterno also decided against going to police. He instead called Tim Curley to report what McQueary had told him. Through emails, Schultz and Curley reportedly discussed a 3-part plan to confront Sandusky, alert his charity, and contact the Department of Welfare. But then Curley met with Joe Paterno. The next evening, Curley allegedly writes to Spanier and Schultz to convey that he no longer wants to contact the authorities just yet, preferring to keep the situation an internal affair, and talk things over with Sandusky instead of notifying child welfare agencies. He reportedly says he wants to tell Sandusky there's a problem and that they want to assist him to get help. Curley asks Spanier what he thinks of this approach, and Spanier calls the plan acceptable. The only downside, he says, is that we may become vulnerable for not having reported it. The next afternoon, Schultz also signs off on handling the matter without telling anyone on the outside, stating the approach is humane and a reasonable way to respond. In the end, groupthink, the group's homogeneous dialectics and cultural norms inside Penn State's leadership guided the decision of 4 men to choose themselves over Sandusky's victims. They irresponsibly took on the role of law enforcement, judge, and jury with a complete disregard for the law in favor of protecting themselves at all costs. To the members of the Penn State football elite, survival of their Penn State way was more important than truth, justice, their so-called commitment to honor, and the safety of helpless children. After all, Sandusky's victims were outside their group. Next, we're going to have Mike look at the gains and losses in this case.